ॐ भैरवाय नमः। ॐ हिङ्गुलाम्बिकाय नमः। ॐ कामाख्याय नमः। ॐ कालकालाय विद्महे कालातीताय धीमहि तन्नः कालभैरव प्रचोदयात्। Namaskaram. Welcome to yet another video of our Ishtartha Guru Bhairava, where we know him one step closer compared to the last minute. So today, with the grace of Guru Bhairava, let us know one of his Swarupa, which is very like minimally being spoken about him, whereas information is very kept in very secretive way when it comes to the particular Devi Aradhana. So that particular Swarupa, which is not so aware or more like than misunderstood, in his Nama Swarupa perspective, we will talk about more about those. So it's about his divine wish and will that actually we will be talking about him today. It's about Akshobhya Bhairava, Guru Akshobhya Bhairava. Ideally, we as a sadhakas, upasakas, we need to understand who is Akshobhya Bhairava. See, Akshobhya Bhairava, it has been also in many of the mythological stories, even in Bhairava Tantra, there are certain stories as well as mantras which has been connected to the Akshobhya Bhairava. But as the information goes, I would like to try to share as much as the information which is being articulated from the tantric or a tantra perspective, as well as from the mythological information perspective, which will make us to know like who is our Bhairava, how exactly we can get connected to him, what are the different type of simple rituals which will enable us to connect with him. So in those lines actually we'll talk about today. So let's first understand who is Akshobhya Bhairava. See, Bhairava who never trembles. In the single word, if I want to talk about the summary of the entire video today, it is only one single line: the Bhairava who never trembles. In the vast realm of Sanatana Dharma, whatever we have it, and in the Tantra Shastra, there is different mythological stories connected to the different Tantra aspect perspective. But when it comes to the Bhairava, it is completely very biggest information which has not been disclosed to the external world. But trust me, the way you go inside towards or get into the Aradhana of the Bhairava, you will get to know more about him in the deepest way. In the Sanatana Dharma, in the Tantra, there are many forms of Bhairava. I believe you would be knowing about it. He is a Pharisee, he is a radiant, he is a compassion, he is a mysterious. Many things we can talk about him. I hope you have also gone through the information in our YouTube community, where actually we have spoken about 108 Swarupas of Bhairava, of Kala Bhairava Swarupa, Guru Bhairava Swarupa, where different his particular sadhana paddhati of 108 types of sadhana paddhati is being disclosed. Similar to that, he is a radiant, he is a compassion, he is a mysterious. Along with all these things, he also has some connection with Ashta Bhairavas also. So there is one stand as the master of the silence, the guardian of the stillness, and we can call it as a break of illusions. That is Akshaya Bhairava. Whereas there is a two different aspects: Akshaya Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava. See, Akshaya Bhairava is actually a breaking of an illusion in prosperity perspective. But in the prosperity, when you rise in the prosperity, the one who cannot be shaken, that is Akshobhya. So there are different ways to actually get connected to him in a different means of Tantra perspective. His name actually, let's understand a step closer about what is Akshobhya Bhairava. Okay, his name itself is a mantra similar to Om Bhairavaya Namaha. I always tell to every upasakas whoever connect to me to do a minimum of one mandala sadhana of 48 um, days, or even 3 mandalas or 5 mandalas. Reason is very simple. When you do a mantra japa of Bhairava, trust me, it is like you are connecting to the consciousness of the Bhairava consciousness, to the portal, to the open in such a way the guardians of the Bhairava Swarupa will be opened up. We really don't know on which master actually will be able to bestow on us. So considering that, Om Bhairavaya Namaha is the Guru Mantra. Basically, that is the one which should be uttered by every upasaka for minimum of the mandalas, and later on that it has to become a apana mantra, such that actually his life should be actually the part of that mantra swarupa perspective. So let's understand today what is Akshobhya Bhairava. His name itself is a mantra. Akshobhya. A means there is not. Shobhya means disturbed or moved or agitated. All these things cannot happen with him at all. That is called Akshobhya Bhairava. As I told earlier, in one line, if you want to summarize about the Akshobhya Bhairava, it is like the Bhairava who never trembles. Our Guru Bhairava never trembles. There are many connections in the Tantra scripture perspective, but before to that, let me just take you to one of a connection when it comes to Akshobhya Bhairava perspective. How exactly? There was a time, I believe you would be knowing all these things. There are many mythological stories connected to it. Initial days when the Rishi Munis, the sages, whenever they used to do any kind of a tapas, they used to do a tapas on a particular god and particular swarupa. It may be Agni Deva, it may be Vayu Deva, it may be Indra Deva, like many other forms of the elemental perspective. They used to do the sadhana and they used to gain the siddhis. There was a time in such a way that God became, the gods actually, especially like the elemental gods, became very proud and glorious, had begun to argue themselves in between, that Vayu Deva between Agni Deva between the Indra Deva. Like there is a multiple stories connected in such a way, like we have a storylines in these lines. Each one claimed that they are highest. So, for example, Indra Deva thundered. He is the owner of the thunder. He told that he is more powerful. And Vayu Deva howled. He told that actually he is much more powerful. Agni Deva burned and he told that actually I am powerful in the entire cosmos. This is what actually was happening. That's where actually Rishi Munis came into in a situation where they were not able to understand what particular devatas they need to activate to have the balance in this cosmos, the celestial world. One piece were now filled with the fear and the imbalance started grumbling. And that's where actually Saptarushi came into a picture. The sages of the earth prayed. They actually went to the Mahadeva directly and asked Guru Bhairava, like Mahadeva, Bhairava, show us the truth. Who is actually we need to do a aradhana such that actually the entire cosmos can be balanced. That's where actually in the response from the silent heart of our Paramashiva, a dark form began to emerge. He was not roaring like a Rudra, nor he was dancing like a Nataraja. He simply stood with a smile, silent, unmoved, very, very powerful. So Devatas looked into his eyes and saw that he has no ego, no anger, no pride, only a vast stillness. And the kind of a stillness that makes the mind blow away. This form of Akshobhya Bhairava, born not from fire but from the silence. It's a silence fire. Not from power but the awareness, from the awareness of the Paramashiva. He raised with no weapons, but moved. He looked at the god, and their pride shattered, and their mind grew, it became calm. So their heart became very softened. So Akshobhya Bhairava taught us them that the real storm is not outside you, it is inside your mind. Be still, be centered, be free. This is what actually he taught to the entire Guru, entire Daivagana. Whatever we call it as Daivagana means the members of the Daiva group. That's where actually our Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava, taught to them that actually real storm is not outside you, it is inside your mind. Be still, be centered, be free from all this egoic practices. This is one of a story of Akshobhya Bhairava. There is multiple stories connected to him. Even in Tantra, there is a different stories. But before that, let me just reiterate. Akshobhya Bhairava is often shown as a dark blue or a black or a color of a void, and the infinity Swarupa. He holds a Vajra, normally thunderbolt, because in this particular story also it is connected to the Indra Devata, thunderbolt, showing that he is a firmness, clarity, and the truth what he hold about what exactly his Swarupa is all about. Sometimes he is riding on the elephant, symbolically, basically elephant symbolizes the strength with the stability. See, basically, and moreover, when it comes to the different Swarupa of Bhairava, each Swarupa of the Bhairava has a different Vahanas. Okay, and here he comes on few of the scriptures tell that actually Akshobhya Bhairava ride on the lion, but few tells that actually he rides on the elephant. But elephant seems to be much more appropriate to me, because he was not furious. He was a symbol of his strength and the stability, because as his name is connected, this is what actually his Vahana would be actually much more opted. He normally, like all the Bhairava Swarupa, he also had a 3 eyes. The third one is not for the destruction. Here every Swarupa of the Bhairava has a different meaning. Here his third eye represents a deep perception. Rather than destruction, it is all about the deepest perception what we need to hold. Unlike the Farsi Bhairava Swarupa, who scare in the rage, Akshobhya Bhairava commanded with just a gaze. His gaze was much more enough to calm down even the Daiva Guna or Deva Guna, or to enable the Deva Guna. His Swarupa was much more than active. So Akshobhya Bhairava, as I told you earlier, Akshobhya, we split it into the word and understood very from a name perspective. Akshobhya, which is not disturbed, moved, or agitated. In connecting to that, when it is being said as unmoved one, okay, that which cannot be disturbed by desire, that cannot be disturbed by the fear, that cannot be disturbed by any kind of an illusion, that is the Swarupa of our Akshobhya Bhairava Guru Swarupa. In Tantra and in Puranic lore stories, he has been embodied as a stillness, witnessing entire void of the cosmos. Even the emotional storm, whatever we call, there are certain storylines which talks about how exactly Akshobhya Bhairava was able to settle the emotional disturbance of the biggest sages who were not able to go into the next stage of the consciousness. Here we need to understand he is a tantric archetype. Okay, for example, like stabilizing the apana vayu. Basically, in the Tantra, it is very beautifully conveyed. Each Bhairava Swarupa is connected to one Mata, one Devi Swarupini. We'll talk about this in detail later, but try to understand here his archetype of the stabilizing the apana vayu, downward energy, whatever we have it has in the Muladhara, it calms down the mind, and the entering into the deeper meditation stage, your apana vayu need to be settled. So maybe you may be having a worry like, what is apana vayu? See, as we have spoken these in the previous videos, in the 5 elements of the Bhairava, I believe you would be knowing, you had already seen that video, but let me reiterate that there are pancha pranavayus, the 5 main vital energies, which is governed, owned, supported by our Guru Bhairava. Okay, in the 5 elemental bodies, we have spoken about 8 elements in that, and separately we have spoken about 5 elements also. Here we are talking about 5 main vital energies: prana vayu, apana vayu, samana vayu, udhana vayu, vyana vayu. What are those? Basically we will understand one by one. Okay, prana vayu is somewhat like an upward, or it is like inward. Okay, to connect it to the this particular body elemental prospect, we can call it like elevation of a chest or anahata. Okay, so whenever we do any breathe in and take the energy and the sensory input, when we inhale, we do a sensory input, right? So intake of the energy, we do it, that is called pranavayu. So it is pranavayu, means it is a chest, connected to the chest. Second comes apanavayu. As I told you, our Akshobhya Bhairava, today's Bhairava Swarupa is about Akshobhya Bhairava, who actually governs the Apanavayu. Apanavayu is somewhat like a downward, like we can call it as a pelvic region in the body perspective, or a lower abdomen, Muladhara. Okay, he basically, Apanavayu, once it is stabilized, we can call it as eliminating. It is about grounding of the energy, or even people whoever have problems, we tell that actually there are certain mudras, we do it from Apanavayu perspective. That is a complete different story. But even it is said, whoever do a aradhana of Akshobhya Bhairava, their grounding, their connection with the meditation will go very high. Second, physical body ailment perspective, especially some problem related to their Muladhara. It may be like constipation issues, or menstruations issues in the feminine energies, or in the matas, wherever they have any kind of a monthly period or a monthly menstruation problem perspective. Here Bhairava, in the Akshobhya Bhairava perspective, Swarupa perspective, his aradhana has been done, automatically he will be able to take care of that particular problems. That is the reason I always tell, Bhairava, once he is getting activated in your entire body, once your 72,000 nadis get activated in his nama japa, after completing your 3 mandalas, automatically whatever the functions connected to our bodies or the locations of the body, entire vayu, pranavayu, apana, samana, udhana, vyana, every things will be connected or controlled by Bhairava himself. Let's talk about third vayu, samana vayu. Samana vayu is somewhat like inward. Okay, so like navel, digestion fire, we call this as a Manipura, or Jataragni, we call it as Jataragni. All about digestion. Basically its function is about digestion or balancing of the energies. Once you have intake the food, it has to digest, right? Samana vayu is actually the essential, elemental or vital energy for actually having the energy which makes any kind of a food. Jataragni, it will going to help you to the digestion of it. It may be like your external information of the digestion, or the internal digestion of the information, or like external, it may be like food, we intake the food inward, taking the food and making it digested. Similarly, whenever you hear the audio or a video about the Bhairava or any information about Daiva Anugraha, automatically you need to know your Samana Vayu is in activated, automatically you are able to understand his Swarupa, automatically you are able to know his Swarupa in complete wavelength. That's the reason Samana Vayu is very, very essential in one's sadhaka's or upasaka's life, because whenever you have his grace, you should also have his grace even to understand him. It is not that actually you got an opportunity of his knowing him through some of the video, or one of your friend or family or a relative has made you introduced to such kind of information of a Bhairava sadhana paddhati perspective, and you really don't know like what you are trying to do. This is where actually it comes into a picture. To understand him better, dharana, taking him inward completely, is very, very essential. Samana Vayu is very, very essential when it comes to the vital energies. Next comes Udhana Vayu. As Udhana, it is somewhat like a throat, okay, upward basically. So here it is about the speech, it's about the spiritual energy, what we accent, or we can call it as consciousness, ariseness. It is all about Udhana Vayu. Okay, Vishuddha Chakra, we call it as a Vishuddha Chakra, which throat and head basically it is connected with. Here you need to be very clear, like even to get the information of Bhairava, your Udhana Vayu need to be very activated. You need to know what exactly you are trying to speak about him, what you are able to understand about him. Vishuddha Chakra, you need to know, even to take a Namasmarana of him, your Vishuddha Chakra need to be activated. Only with his grace, wish and will, we will be able to even take his name. Similarly, Udhana Vayu, once it is activated, this vital energy is activated, automatically you will get to know about many, many aspects. His consciousness will be open to us. Last comes Vyana. Vyana Vayu, or it can be like whole body. Vyana is somewhat like a whole body, expensive. Okay, it can be circulatory motions. We can call it as from that direction perspective. But when it comes to the circulation of the prana, movement on the coordination of the entire prana, Vyana plays very vital role, because he actually like moves around or coordinates entire around all the Vayu Prajna. We call it as Vayu Prajna, means function of each Vayu, Prana Vayu will be very vital when it comes to Vyana Vayu. Here, talking or connecting from a Akshobhya Bhairava perspective, as I told you, Apana Vayu, the downward, the pelvic or a lower abdomen region of the balancing which will take place when it comes to the activation or knowing about Akshobhya Bhairava. If you know that actually you are sitting in a meditation, you are able to sit and do a meditation of the Guru Bhairava, understand that actually your Apana Vayu is getting balanced with only with his grace, and Akshobhya Bhairava will be able to grace you much more and better. Even in few of the Tantra scripture, it is also connected that Akshobhya Bhairava is also part of Ashta Bhairava, but not fully radiant information or fully available information on this. But here, few of the Tantra books actually talks like this, that he is part of the 8 manifestation of a Bhairava, when actually Kala Bhairava created the 8 Bhairavas, Atisanga, Chanda, Kapala, Krodha, Unmata, Bhishana, Ruru, Samhara. He also nominated Akshobhya Bhairava to take care of the east direction. It is like a rising light. It is awakening of awareness. Maybe from an awareness or a spiritual angle perspective, maybe they have connected this to the 8 manifestation of the Bhairava. But we have, as per my understanding, as per my connection with the Guru Bhairava, I see that this information only from a connection of a spiritual awakening is being connected from the Ashta Bhairava perspective. Here we need to understand every Swarupa Ashta Bhairava is connected to one particular Adipati. We call it as one particular Adipati. Each direction is actually connected to. So similar to that, Akshobhya Bhairava, he's like a furry in a deepest meditative. It burns ignorance with the fire of the wisdom. Okay, Akshobhya Bhairava is that particular Swarupa perspective. His Swarupa is discussed in many kind of scriptures, especially in Rudra Yamala Tantra and even Tantra Rajatantra and even in Bhairava Tantra, where he is invoked not just for a protection. Here we need to understand one beautiful thing, like, but for any kind of an Bhairava, once he get activated, we also as a Upasaka need to have a inner stability, a fearlessness stage, or a insight of even to hold his do a dharana of his swarupa. That is very very essential. This is very beautifully been articulated on all these scriptures in Rudramalaya Tantra, Tantra Raja Tantra, especially in one of the sadhana mala, what we call it as Tantra Sara text. Here, Akshobhya Bhairava, especially few of the articulation has been done, essentially like in the context of Buddhist Vajrayana or a Shiva Tantra context perspective. It has been very beautifully been linked. Okay, it has been linked him like a transformation of a meditation that dissolves the mental turbulence. Is very beautifully been written in a Vajrayana Tantra. Okay, and especially in Shaiva Tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava Swarupa is not been articulated. It is very very like there is only like two lines of stotra which has been recited, verses are been recited. Ideally what I see is it is a unique Swarupa, unlike like other Bhairava Swarupa. This particular Akshobhya Bhairava is stillness. Here what we need to understand is his presence is not like a thunder, like a Krodha Bhairava or a Kala Bhairava, especially when we speak about any kind of a Dashamahavidya. Even when Kalima comes into a picture, when last video when we spoke about Bhairava is everywhere, we spoke about like Kala Bhairava perspective. He's not a thunderous like Kala Bhairava. Here he's a silent, very very powerful, like a still deeper depth of the consciousness ocean, whatever we call it as consciousness ocean, the entire cosmos void. He governs this. He is a calm into the storm of the entire existence. In this existence, if you see, wherever there is very minimal actually like what we call it as objects or particles. If you see even the science perspective, the void, the cosmos is a cosmic ocean, multiverse universe are there. In entire this, the highest range of availability what we have, the matter is the void, the cosmic ocean. This cosmic ocean or the silent powerful is governed and owned by our Akshobhya Bhairava. See, there are many beautiful articulation even in Buddhist Vajrayana Tantra, beautifully been articulated how exactly the meditative Buddhist form actually has been connected. Maybe we'll talk about this in detail later, but let me also articulate one of a very essential information. Devi, whenever we speak about Bhairava, we know that actually we speak about the Devi. Here in Tantra, especially when Bhairava is complete, he's incomplete without any kind of a Shakti. Here for Akshobhya Bhairava, it is Ma Devi Tarama, the Mahavidya, the second Mahavidya of Dasha Mahavidya, where she is the deepest compassion. See, we need to understand Tara means the one who ferries across. She is a guiding light in the darkest time. Together with Akshobhya Guru Bhairava, she forms with a twin energy of a stillness, rescue the nirvana and karuna. She will be able to activate this particular tattva in all the sadhakas, upasakas life. That is the reason I always tell, unless you do the aradhana of the Bhairava, unless your grounding of the Bhairava is being done, even touching towards any Swarupa of the Devi is impossible. Even if you go, it will be a window shopping. You will go, you will be able to do a aradhana of a Devi for the couple of mandalas and you will come back. Trust me. That is the reason it is always good. It is always final. Always, if you want to talk about the Devi, Bhairava is the only one who will be able to bless us in this particular path of Tantra, Jnana perspective. Here, Tara Tantra, there is one particular scripture called as in Tara Tantra, even in Rudramalaya Tantra. How exactly the Tarama as well as Akshobhya Bhairava is connected, it is beautifully been articulated. Even few of the Buddhists, as I told you, Tantric Buddhic texts, it is beautifully articulated. One of the book we can call it as Haviraja Tantra. Here actually it is described the divine union of the of Akshobhya Bhairava and Tarama. So we will not go into more detail about this particular Tantra analysis perspective. Let's understand what exactly this Swarupa is all about. See, in Buddhist Tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava is considered as a protector of the Vajra family. The Tara arises for the compassion to begin to the liberation of that particular family. Vajra and his connection to the Ma Tara is something very, very divine. Okay, I don't want to talk more about tantric scriptures perspective, Buddhic tantra or Buddhist tantric books which connects on the Swarupa perspective, because that is a very huge topic when it comes to the understanding the Akshobhya Bhairava. Because in Buddhist tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava is considered as one of the very, very essential when it comes to the activation of your silenceness. Even Buddhist monk, if you see the way they have the stability of the silenceness, they go into this the void of the consciousness where actually they will be unmoved. That can be only possible with the grace of Akshobhya Bhairava. His connection with Tarama has beautifully been articulated, especially as I told you in Tara Tantra, in Rudramalaya Tantra. This connection is very beautifully been connected, where Akshobhya Bhairava is a concept of Matara, and they tell that actually, like when Matara is the mother who guides the soul across the ocean of the fear. Any sadhakas who goes into the each Mahavidyas, they are supposed to go in the same process. After Kali, it is Tarama only. After that is Tripura Sundari only. This is how actually it goes. That's how actually the sadhaka or upasaka will be able to drop his fears. So she is a soul across the ocean of the fear. She is actually, Akshobhya is a still witnessing who calms the storm inside that particular ocean. So it is very, very essential. If the particular sadhaka soul need to be calmed down, it is only with the help of Devi as well as Shiva Swarupa perspective who will be able to take care of us. That is Tarama as well as Akshobhya Bhairava. See here, the union, whatever the information we spoke about, the union is very sacred, not just in the divine love, okay, but the divine balance. If we talk about in a simple terms, Tara is a Shakti in the motion, Akshobhya is a Shiva in the stillness. So their union teaches us both compassion and the clarity is very, very needed when we walk through the path of the liberation. When we are in the path of the Bhairava consciousness perspective, their activation in this particular life is very, very essential. In one of the like, let me just tell you one small story connecting to this, both with Ma Tara as well as Akshobhya Bhairava, where you will be able to understand the beautiful connection between Ma as well as Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava in a better way. It was it's like a story goes like this. Like once upon a time, there was actually one of a upasaka who was doing a sadhana of the Devi, and he was doing a sadhana in the actually Taraka forest near river Taraka. Actually, the upasaka by name Devananda, I believe that's what actually has been written in that particular tantric book perspective. Devananda, actually, he was the upasaka who was trying to meditate, do a aradhana of the Devi, Tarama. He was very, very simple, a poor in wealth. He did not had any kind of a money or fame, name, nothing. But a rich in his love towards Ma. He was very, very rich from his inner connection. Every night, what he used to do is he would go sit near to the cremation ground and softly spoke about one particular, that is a particular Devi Matara mantra, which I cannot recite here, but one particular mantra, the like Om, there would be three bija mantras with a fat. Okay, with a full faith, he offered only a blue flowers in his heart. No, not physically. Mentally, emotionally, he used to offer the blue color flower to the Ma. And whenever he used to perform this, people used to see this. He is sitting and doing such kind of actions. People used to mock him. Even the priest wanted to tell him that please don't do this. Ma, Tara is very dangerous. She is a very fiery god. She is very furious. Do not call her upon without a proper guru, where actually your life will be turbulent. But Devananda replied always that she is my mother. She is my mother, and what would the mother do to her child? So one night there was a dark cloud filled with the sky, and the tantra, one of a tantric came into that village, and the tantric actually he came with the evil power. See, such kind of stories are actually beautifully been articulated just to teach us many deepest meanings. So here, when the tantric came to that particular village with the evil forces, he began stealing the people's peace, wealth, health, as well as a dream. Fear spreaded, entire fear spreaded in such a way that actually entire village was in the turbulence. The tantric actually challenged the villagers that let your God protect you now. Even he was the Aradhaka of Tarama. See, that is the reason I always tell, when it comes to the Shakti as well as Bhairava, they can be activated with whatever the Swarupas. It may be Satvika, Tamasika, Rajasika. It depends upon each Upasaka's will and wish, how they want to activate. Here, Tantric had activated his Tamasika Guna and a Rajasika Guna, where actually he was trying to, his ego was in peak, telling that I am a Guru, I can do anything, you need to only listen to me, let your God protect you. So this is what actually the Tantric was in the stage. Devananda, the Upasaka, ran to the cremation ground at that time, called to the Ma, stating, Ma, oh Ma, save us from this turbulence of the tantric who has come and actually challenging us. So if I have ever called you in the love, please hear to me now and please come and support. It is not like actually he did any kind of a ritual sitting in the cremation ground by performing physically. As I told you earlier, only with manasika tapas, he used to offer a blue color flowers to the Ma lotus feet, calling her upon with the Bijakshara mantra, which is actually a encoded. As I told you, like it cannot be recited here. That mantra actually, when he spoke and recited the Ma in the full love, that's what actually happens every time. Suddenly, Ma came into it is like a fire of a thunder came into a light with a blue color lightning. Ma came into a picture. Ma Tarama appeared. She was like dark and in the dark at the night, wild hair flying. She was so beautiful, thousands of radiance of energy of sun, of we call it as thousands of Surya Prakashana was actually activated. She was like holding the khadga, kapala, and her third eye was burning in the truth. And she walked through to the tantric and looked at the deep in his soul and said, you challenge the dharma with the ego, but I came here with the love in the truth. So try to understand, Ma is always Ma. She likes more love. When you pour love into your actions, once you pour your love into the sadhana, once you put your love into the sadhana paddhati, trust me, she will come with one whatsoever maybe actually siddhis we may be able to get it, but we can only get activated her complete invocation or complete getting her into our life can only be possible with the love. With one roar she shattered the spell and freed the man, and the entire people of the village were being freed. See here, she, even she as the Devi Swarupini, that Devananda smiled like a gentle mother and said, "You called me with a bhava, not with a fear. I always come to my children whenever they call it with a love." This is what actually we always tell. Whenever you want to call the Devi or a Bhairava, call it with a love. She disappeared into the cremation smoke. As a storyline, she disappeared into the cremation smoke. See here, what we need to understand is Ma Tara does not appear to the ritual only alone, but to the pure devotion. The pure devotion need to be thrown into that. For those who surrender in the love, she becomes both protector as well as a liberator. So this is actually the Tarama into a picture. Similar to this, Akshobhya Bhairava's one story is there. Like, especially it is written in the storyline that in the eastern mountains, there was a Rishi called as an Kashyapananda performing a deepest tapas, where his goal was to realize a pure consciousness. He wanted to raise his consciousness to the next level, beyond the duality. How to raise it? And he had heard about the Akshobhya Bhairava from his gurus, where he was Akshobhya Guru being unmoved, the Bhairava Swarupa himself, the Parama Shiva himself actually had gained, who granted the power to overcome any kind of fear and the illusion. Here we need to understand in this particular storyline, he also uttered one particular mantra, okay, that cannot be recited because that is a tantra mantra. It has been said that actually that Rishi, he renounced even the food, sleep, speech, but he here the final stage of the test came into a picture where actually the great illusion of the Mahavya appeared, a beautiful being who tempted the sage with the knowledge, power, and the celestial pleasure, telling that I will give you everything, the knowledge, everything. Now come into consciousness. I will give you everything. The Rishi was shaken. His breath trembled with a silence crack. He requested, "Oh Guru Bhairava, oh Akshobhya Bhairava, my mind is shaking. Help me to remain in stillness. Please come and support me." This was his request to the Guru Bhairava. In that moment, the air became heavy and it appeared in such a way that the Vajra in one hand and the Trishula in the other hand. Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava came into an existence. Like the body was silent like a frozen lake. What a beautiful information in this particular storyline is being shared. Like Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava is a silent like a frozen lake. It was none other than the Guru Swarupa Akshobhya Bhairava came into a picture. Just in one, only in one gaze, with no weapon, no maya, nothing. He stood in front of the Sadhakada Rishimuni, and the particular Kashyapananda Rishimuni was able to bow down to the Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava, then look at the Rishi and said, like, when the world shakes, sit with that particular within. When the mind dances, become the sky. And I am that particular dance in that particular silence. He tells that even in the turbulence, there is a small gap of silence. That particular silence is me. See, here in the storyline perspective, he came and blessed the sage. He disappeared. And what the storyline teaches us all about us. See, even in this particular storyline, Akshobhya Bhairava teaches that no fear or the illusion can survive. When you call upon ourselves in inner stillness and awareness, the Bhairava as well as the other story of the Matara, they come into a picture. Finally, as a being a upasakas, we need to understand both Ma as well as Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava are the protectors, one through the loving gaze, and the other through the silent power, one roaring for you, the other watching over you. Together they show the path of the devotion and the inner truth. Whether you cry with the love or sit in the silence, they are near to you. This is what actually every upasaka goes into the path. That's the reason, as I told you, these storylines will always teach us how exactly the individual, as a person, what are the roars of thoughts arises in us. Matara will be able to take care. Once silence come into a picture, Guru Akshobhya Bhairava will take into a picture. See here, there are certain books, especially in Eastern India, part of the perspective, as I told, from a Buddhist monk perspective. Also, there are certain, even in Nepalese, the hidden Himalayan tantric sites, there is a very deepest information, tantric information, which is available about Akshobhya Bhairava, and how exactly he can be invoked, and how exactly his presence can be felt, its subtle energy can be activated in the in the sadhaka's life, is very beautifully been articulated in Tantra Rahasya book. Okay, some texts, especially in Maha Chinnamastapita, especially in the Maha Chinnamastapita, as well as in the Tarapita, there is a, whenever you do any kind of a Devi Aradhana puja, it has been said that actually whenever you invoke Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava, they'll be able to actually they perform certain kind of a sadhana perspective, where actually the particular stability in the sadhaka will come into picture. See, chanting with a steady breathe, all, I'm not I'm not trying to convey this. There are different sadhana paddhati perspective when it comes to the activating both Devi as well as a Bhairava when it comes to the sadhana. Unless you perform the, let me reiterate, unless you perform the Bhairava sadhana, getting into the Devi Aradhana or Devi sadhana is really impossible. Here, what we need to, as a sadhakas, we need to understand is Akshobhya Bhairava teaches that angry can be transformed into a clarity and the chaos into the inner silence. He represents a deep, still like a, we can call it as a lake of consciousness, and the reflection, all but a disruption, whatever is happening into our mind will not be none once Akshobhya Bhairava comes into our particular life. His Vajra, his Ayudha, Vajra, destroys the illusion, and in other hand is actually having a skull. It is all about the ego. Like Bhairava, his presence came only when he actually killed the ego of the even the Brahma, who was a creator, the purest form. If you want to come out of it, even he was able to create remove the ego of the even the Brahma. Who are we? See, basically, we need to understand in a very deepest level when it comes to the Aradhana of the Akshobhya Bhairava. See, there is one particular storyline. Okay, it has been said that actually Akshobhya Bhairava, especially when about the Hala Hala story. Hala Hala story, when there was actually Hala Hala being the mountain was been crumbled by devatas as well as asuras. Hala Hala came into a picture. There is a Karkotaka Visha. We call it as the Visha, which is called as a Karkotaka Visha, which was so poisonous that it could have burned entire cosmos. You know the story that our Guru Paramashiva came into a picture where actually he without even disturbing the process, he came, he drank, and he went. Here, he is also been said, like the story, like even Ma came into a picture, she actually holded the throat of the Shiva, because that Karkotaka Visha was so poisonous that actually he also trembled. She also trembled for a second. Here, when Ma holded it, it is been said in few of the storyline that that particular Swarupa of the Shiva is, I believe you would be knowing it, it is Nilakanta. It is also been said Nilakanta Swarupa is also a Akshobhya Bhairava. Akshobhya Bhairava, proper Swarupa. Nilakanta Bhairava Swarupa is only Akshobhya Bhairava. It is also said that Ma, when she holded the throat of the Paramashiva, she was a Tarama there, and that's how I believe you would be knowing the story. Like she, when the entire the poison was spreading, Ma gave the milk to even Shiva. That's where actually the Shiva Shakti was being union, and how exactly Shiva Paramashiva was able to actually hold that particular Karkotaka Visha in his throat. That is beautifully been articulated. Here, even Nilakantha Swarupa is also Akshobhya Bhairava in few of the tantric books as it has been written. But when it comes to the Buddhism, Tibetan, Mahayana traditions, here Akshobhya Bhairava is articulated into a different form. In the Buddhist Tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava is he is considered as a Dhyani Buddha, as one of the five wisdom of the Buddhas. We consider as there are five wisdoms of the Buddhas. One of the five wisdom of the Buddha, it is Akshobhya. What is Akshobhya in the Mahayana tradition, especially in a Tibetan as well as in a Mahayana tradition? In a Vajrayana Buddhism, it has been said it represents the mirror-like wisdom. Akshobhya represents the mirror-like wisdom. He represents the consciousness without any kind of judgment. He is represented as a transcendence of the angerness. So maybe actually that would be a very deepest topic to talk about, but let's keep it very short, such that actually we understand him much more easy. In this particular Mahayana in the Tibetan as well as Mahayana tradition, there is one particular beautiful ancient story which has been articulated. Here, one of a monk actually asked to the Buddha, I shall never feel hatred, I shall never be shaken. Even the entire universe collapse, I should not be shaken. Which is the sadhana which I need to do? He will ask to his guru. Through the countless kalpa of the meditation, his guru, he transformed, activates the Akshobhya Buddha into his life. He tells that actually the unshakable enlightened one, he is Akshobhya Bhairava, the one who rules over the entire paradise of the sadhana paddhati, or called as Abhirati, especially in the Eastern India, Eastern Paradise, we call it as Eastern Paradise. That particular, similar like Jambudvipa, similarly to the Eastern Paradise, it is called as somewhat like Abhirati, the land of joy. The Eastern place is called like that. This realm is filled with beings who have overcome the warmth and who practices the dharma with a great joy. Guru Akshobhya Buddha will be activated, unshakable. This is actually his guru was able to disclose this particular information to him. The Vatful form who Akshobhya Bhairava manifest here is her Hiruku, or we call it as Vajra Bhairava. The other terrific forms, not from the harm, but to the inner demons. Every person, every individual will be having an inner demons in us. To diminish that, even the Tibetan monks or all the monks used to perform the Aradhana of the Akshobhya Buddha. Here actually Vajra Bhairava is often depicted as a Yamanataka or Yamantaka, we can call it as Yamantaka, like a destroyer of the death, showing the Akshobhya power to liberate brings from the greatest fear. So here we need to understand very beautifully, in each scriptures, his Swarupa has been beautifully been articulated. When it comes to the Shaiva Tantra as well as Buddhist Tantra, or as I told you, like it may be Tibetan as well as Mahayana tradition, beautifully it has been articulated. His natures are very beautifully been articulated. When it comes to the Shaiva Tantra, the Akshobhya Bhairava, his Swarupa is in a differently being showcased, and Vajrayana Buddhism, Akshobhya Buddha is being shown in a different way. Especially when it comes to the Shaiva Tantra, he is being shown as a Farsi, Varthful guardian of the particular direction, as I told you, like in the Ashta Bhairava perspective. But when it comes to the Vajrayana Buddhism, it is being shown as he is unshakable Buddha for the entire East direction. Here, in the Shaiva Tantra, it has been said that he holds a Jalatattva. Holds the emotional purification from energy elemental perspective. But here, in the especially in a Vajrayana Buddhism perspective, also he also holds the water clarity, stillness. That's so beautifully it get connected. Here, if you see, his role is about the transmute the inner angerness, the emotion and the chaos which happens in our life. Here also, in the Vajrayana Buddhism, it has been said that the transformation, anger, and the wisdom comes into a picture. Iconographical wise, even in the both are similar. Like especially in the Shaiva Tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava is shown as a blue black Farsi, as well as he is holding a serpent in his neck. Here, when it comes to the Akshobhya Buddha, he is shown as a calm blue, and he holds a Vajra and the peaceful expression he holds. His iconography actually meets, both are actually get connected. Here, in the Shaiva dimension, there is actually something called as a Bhairava Mandala to activate him. Here, especially in Abhirati, I told that Abhirati, pure land, he is activated in particular land of the east, where actually in the Nepal, he is actually been Aradhana has been done. Both are actually Aradhana, like tantric rituals or a mantra or homa, havana, can be activated in both the Swarupas. But when it comes to the especially Vajrayana Buddha tradition perspective, mantra, mudra, and there are meditations. Okay, homa and the yagnas, when it comes to the deepest form of the tantra, it has been performed. So basically, please, where the Akshobhya is worshipped, it may be any places, east, west. I told you, in the Shaiva tradition or in the Buddhism, everything he's been, even in the temple, especially in the temples, he has been done as a Akshobhya Bhairava. Even in Tibetan monasteries, he has been done a Aradhana as a peaceful as well as a Varthful deity with the mandalas. They write the mandalas and they activate him in particular Swarupa and they get activated him. Even Nepalese, we call it as Vajracharya traditions. In Nepalese, especially for the Buddha, for the Bhairava, it is like a Vajracharya tradition. It is like a combination of Shaiva as well as a Buddha tradition forms. The Nepalese also do a Aradhana. See, irrespective of whatever his Swarupa has been activated in, whatever the tradition or whatever the Tantra scriptures we spoke about, try to understand all of Guru Bhairava Swarupa, Akshobhya Bhairava Swarupa is one. What we need to, as a sadhaka, what we need to understand from all this understanding of his Swarupa is all about his, when Akshobhya Bhairava is being activated, once your sadhana goes in a higher level, you become subtle and you become so peaceful from within. When your mind is strong, okay, when you are actually being completely in a panic situation, trust me, Bhairava is the only way. As I always tell, Bhairava is everywhere. Bhairava is the only way he can remove us from this bhavasara, from the ocean of this life. He is the only person who can remove us. When your mind is in a storm, call upon the unshakable Guru Bhairava, Akshobhya Bhairava. He is not against your emotions. He is still a ocean beneath. Even in that particular emotions, he settles there. He is Akshobhya, the mirror that does not flinch. See, basically, as I always tell, Bhairava can be called upon in many ways. Once you only sit, when we also, even in our Telegram, we have a Telegram group We always do in Ashtami, we always do a Bhairava sadhana, where each different levels of sadhana paddhati of different sadhanas has been performed. We always tell, first, your mind is to be in stillness. If you are restless in your performing your sadhana, try to understand your sadhana need to be much more intensified. And also, when you face any kind of a turmoil in your day-to-day life, try to understand your sadhana is working. You are getting prepared to the antarmauna. The inner silence is getting activated. The deepest japa you need to activate. The 4 types of japa I've already explained. The deepest japa actually get activated in you. You would be protected mentally once you do a sadhana of him. Physical turbulence actually will not bother you at all. It will become like a normal to you. So activating, getting into the Bhairava into his in this particular life is very, very, very essential for each sadhakas. So whatever we have learned or heard about him today in the different views of a tantra scripture perspective, let me just tell you, see, basically whatever the his storylines, maybe the mythological stories or the tantra lines, Bhairava Tantra, he represents a grounded fear of the awareness. In the Buddhist Tantra, Akshobhya Bhairava represents as Akshobhya Buddha, transforming anger, his mirror-like wisdom, he will be able to grace us. Irrespective of whatever the crossover of the traditions or the Tantra we talk about today, try to understand the Akshobhya Bhairava is not the anger. In the unusual sense, whatever we put it across when the Bhairava Swarupa perspective. When it talks to the Bhairava, people talk only about the furiousness. They only know about the Kala Bhairava. No, there are many, many, many Swarupas of our Guru Bhairava where you as a sadhaka can be able to know about much more potent, where actually our blessings or a connection with him will be much more profound. Here is not a anger. His unusual sense of anger is not there. He is like stillness. He is a fire of a transformation, but in a utter stillness. He burns without flickering. Like actually once the light up, once you are in a sadhana, you are burning, you flicker. But once Akshobhya Bhairava comes into, especially in the Apanavayu, in the Mooladhara, you will not flicker at all. In any kind of a turbulence in your life, automatically you will get settled. With his grace, today we were able to know little bit more about how exactly the Bhairava, he will be able to come into this particular Upasaka's life, how he will be able to help this particular life into the next level. So as this discussion is going into a lengthy way, I would request, in case if you have any kind of doubt towards a sadhana paddhati perspective, please, we will be providing a description, our Telegram group in the description. Please connect to our Telegram group. You will be able to know what are the different types of sadhana we as a upasakas need to perform it. Initially, it will be as, don't be in a rush to complete, and it is not actually a badge. Graduation badges which will be provided to stating that you have completed your first stage, second stage. No, it is somewhat like your connection need to be much more settled. That is the reason we always tell, please perform minimum 1 to 3 mandalas of the sadhana where proper stable sadhana paddhati is being explained. And here, let me reiterate, here in a Daiva Anugraha Bhairava consciousness perspective, financial, monetary, or we never ask anyone to provide any kind of a dakshina for any of the activities. Simple. This is a seva. This is a love towards Guru Bhairava, what we are trying to do. We want the same thought process. Once you connect to the Bhairava consciousness, automatically you'll get to know about in detail in that. But to put it into short, please If you want more information about the sadhana paddhati perspective, join the Telegram group, experience yourself to the next level of the sadhana paddhatis. Once you complete your mandala sadhana, you would stepping into the prathama, dvitiya, tritiya charana, and automatically you will get to know about him in a very different dimensional way, where you can invoke into him into in your life. So with that note, Om Bhairavaya Namaha. Om Hingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kamakyaya Namaha. Om Kalakalaya Vidmahe Kalatitaya Dhimahi Tanna Kala Bhairava Prachodayat. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amrita Rupini Shakti Manashiveshari Hingulaya Namaha. Namaskaram.